All right, we are live. Hi, ladies.
Hello.
Good evening. Happy, what are we on Thursday, right? It's
Who even knows? Who knows?
One of those days of the week.
One of the days of the week, exactly. I think we're getting to the weekend, but the weekends don't seem to matter that much anymore.
No, nothing.
So anyway, I'm so excited to be here. I'm Cristy Kish, publisher of Los Tweens and Teens, and I'm so excited to be here today with not only Lina, who is our ongoing parenting expert. We have Amy Mascott with us today of Teach Mama. And I have so much respect for Amy because not only is she a mom of, is it 3 teenagers?
3 teenagers. Yep. 13, 14, and 16. So
amazing. Yeah. So not only is Amy a mother of 3, but she's a teacher and she has all sorts of resources. And we met a while ago, I think at some blogging conferences, and we've been in that circle ever since. So I'm super excited that you were able to join us tonight here. And of course, Lina's always with us giving tips and information. So I'm going to let you guys do a quick introduction. We're going to have some information on screen with links, and then we'll get started on this rather difficult, but we're going to try to have as many tips and resources as possible for our audience. So maybe Amy, you're new to our audience, so please take it away.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. I am Amy Mascott, and Cristy and I met, I think we were, if I'm not mistaken, shoving popcorn in our faces, and we were like connected over our love of popcorn.
That's right.
Do you remember? Yeah. So I often think of you whenever I see the big tin. Anyway, I'm happy to be here. I am the creator of teachmama.com, and that is a site I started in 2008, and the whole focus was to empower parents to take an active role in their kids' education. So I am not a homeschooling mother. I bow down to those people who are able to homeschool. I am not. However, I do encourage every parent to take an active role in their kids' education. And so I've just shared ways, tips, tricks, and ideas that parents can do that take anywhere from 30 seconds to 5 minutes to 20 minutes, just to help stay connected with their kids that way. And as my kids have grown, the topics in the blog have gone from teaching like ABCs to now staying connected with teens and connecting to the school. So I'm a former high school English teacher, currently a reading specialist. And like I said, I've got 3 teens, and I'm married to an elementary school administrator. So
wow, education is in your blood, basically.
Yeah, basically. Yes. So thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here and share some ideas for parents.
Absolutely. And my daughter just got her AP English score as her final of her senior year. So she was all excited about that.
I know. My daughter got her AP NSL exam score too. I mean, and honestly, to even have taken those during a pandemic, I think is remarkable.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, our kids are so much more resilient than we are, I think, are giving them credit for, you know?
Yep.
But phew, well, that's over, right?
All right, Lina, take it away. You are no stranger to our audience. She's definitely our parenting expert, but I'm going to let you jump in there and say your quick intro.
Sure. I'm Lina Acosta Sandaal. I'm the owner and founder of Stop Parenting Alone, a parenting education and consultation service and program. And absolutely everything I do is based on my belief that with the right information, parents always make the right choices for their children. A lot of the time, what's really happening for a parent when they're second guessing themselves is just that little bit of developmental information and psychological information that just kind of makes something that looks completely illogical seem a little less scary. So that's my passion. I love parents, and I always tell people it's called Stop Parenting Alone, not I Fix Your Child. So I'm all about parents.
Absolutely. And I can vouch and I can personally vouch for raising 2 teens all at once, or teens in general, right? Lina has gotten me through where I can text her like, am I crazy or are they crazy or how are we handling this, right? Moments. So that's what I love about working with her, because the first thing she'll always tell you is take a deep breath. It's not that bad.
Definitely.
So anyway, definitely.
And also let them fail. Let them fail.
Let yes, that has been like, if anyone takes anything away from mine are double 18-year-olds right now, is the let them fail probably was the best lesson I ever got around being 10 or 11 when Lina and I met. So I had to really, really listen and internalize that. And that was, I would say, one of the best tips you ever gave me was that one. And now the lighthouse, but we'll talk about that one at the end. But anyway, so thank you so much, ladies, for being here. I really am so honored that you joined us. And we have a number, I actually asked, we have a private group as part of the Los Tweens platform. We've got several questions that parents asked us, but I'm going to toss the first one at you, Lina, to kind of help us set the tone. And it's kids listen to our concerns and also gather issues from the news. What are some of the tips that you have while addressing everything that they're hearing, in particular right now about the new school year? Is it online? Is it not? Is it hybrid? Is it virtual? Parents are like going crazy that they have to make this decision, or at least, take a survey. So how do we, to set the tone here, help to mitigate everything that we're being bombarded with, that we're not giving them more anxiety than they need to have at this moment?
Right. Number one, please turn off the background 24-hour news cycle. Let's do it the old-fashioned way and pick a time when you are going to be watching the news, and choosing a news source. This is true from little itty bitty ones that we know. Background television decreases their language development, all the way to adolescence, where background television is just more fodder for that type of repetitive thought patterns. So that's number one. Number two, answer their questions and sit with them with curiosity. But be mindful when you do it, right? Don't go into their room while they're watching the 100 and start going, so I have to make a decision about your school, right? I recommend that everybody at this point, especially now where we're spending so much time together, especially for kids 12 and over, be respectful of those moments where they are seeking that independence and that time alone. But do let them know, hey, we have to have this conversation. You're not going to make the final decision. However, we want to know, we, your caregivers, want to know, what are your thoughts? What would it be like for you to be just virtual? What would it be like for you to, and let them give you feedback, especially those that are 12 and over, for a lot of them. And also be realistic about what it's going to be like. There's going to be temperature checks and social distancing, and adults constantly letting them know, be careful, be careful, be careful. Mm-hmm. But my recommendation is to get information from them. In the early teen years, the middle schoolers and the high schoolers, a lot of the time as parents, we talk at them, and I want you to talk with them. And a great way to do that is to be curious and to wonder with them. But it's the timing of when you're being curious that's really important.
Absolutely. I think that to me has been so helpful, again, with the double teenagers in my house. Mm-hmm. Mindful of the timing, we actually created a rule of we don't have the news in the background. We have it scheduled like Netflix, right? It's like we can watch our news upon schedule the way they like to watch any streaming service, right? So that has been a tremendous help. And then we sit and we have conversations about it. So thank you for that. That has definitely been helpful. And we're deciding on whether we go to college in person or not, since it's all going to be online. So it is a crazy moment for sure. Amy, because we're just So happy you're here. Taking it to the tween conversation for a moment, on the 10 to 12-year-old frame of mine, since yours just turned 13, one of them, what do you suggest in terms of summer? Summer learning as we're getting ready. They are listening to everything that's coming and what have you in terms of the new school year. But in general, with a regular school year, you have loss of learning, in that summer break. I can only imagine where we are now with this age group. So I definitely think it would be helpful for our audience, to hear some of your tips for how do we create active learning during the summer.
Well, that's a good question. I think it's the $1 million question actually right now. And everyone is worried and rightly so. This is unprecedented. And I think that my number one piece of advice for every parent is just to look at the big picture, right? A lot of my friends were panicking about summertime learning. Like, we've got to register our kids. We've got to get them signed up for these, a lot of districts are doing free summer school, at least where we are. I think probably everywhere they're doing that, free summer classes. And I talked to my kids about it. I was like, are you interested in doing some classes over the summer, or are you maxed out? And they all three of them said, we are totally maxed out. We've stared at the screen enough. We just need a break. And so I was like, fine, that's totally cool. Like, you don't have to take a class this summer, and we're just letting them kind of, well, I'll get into kind of the things that we're doing, but I don't think it's like imperative for every family, because we are all in this. Every single student across the country is experiencing probably about a half a year or more setback. Like, that's it. Like, so let's just accept that. And let's just be okay with it. And number one, what should take priority is social and emotional learning. Our kids are mourning, especially, our older kids who are missing out on prom and senior, like every signing day, and all those graduation. Graduation is a big one, but they're all mourning, and not even the older kids, but the kids who missed their 8th grade dance, and that's like the thing they look forward to. So I am in every person I'm talking to, and every thing I'm doing, I'm emphasizing the importance of that social and emotional piece. It's been hard for all of us, but especially our kids. That being said, do we want them to be like playing Xbox all summer long? No. Do we want them to be like doing TikToks all summer long? No. And so it's very important that we set limits and we share our expectations and that kind of thing.
Okay. I've actually seen, my daughters are tutoring, right? Younger ones. And what they're trying to do is a combination of, number one, they're young, right? So they're having fun with their tutoring, right? So they make it a lot more fun than I would say like your average adult.
Right.
But so they're making it fun. So they're trying to combine tutoring some of the kids that are going into middle school in particular with that transition, but they're trying to make it fun. So any tips around that, like trying to maybe incorporate it, but let's try to make it fun, or maybe let someone else do it instead of the parent.
Totally. So that's the most important thing. I think that is different, right? Like, if that's skill building for the tutor and the children, and it's not forcing a kid to sit with like a phonics book at the dining room table, or forcing them to, plug away at, Rosetta Stone or whatever you're doing, but instead making the learning fun, an experience like the older and younger neighbor tutoring for our 10 to 12 age kids, doing something like there are free online art classes.
Yes.
That is this is a great time to stretch our creative muscles, and whether it's journaling or painting or knitting or woodworking. There are like a million trillion YouTube videos. There are also specific classes. A friend of mine who runs a blog is doing Kids Art Spot. It's like a kids art camp. Every week she sends an email with links to these videos, and it's just so well done, so affordable. And I could share that link with you, Cristy, if you want. But that's just one thing. Like for some kids, that is just enough, right? For their learning for the summer. Perhaps for other kids, you want to do something like a master class for our older kids. I mean, definitely not 10 to 12, but I told my kids they needed to do at least a master class this summer. We got a membership. It's not that expensive, but there are cooking classes, there are fashion design classes, and they're taught by like the masters. So even though my son wants to take the poker class, I'm like, okay. I'm not at all allowing him to do online gambling. That's not it. But like, there's a decent amount of math skill. And you know what? If someone is going to judge me for like having my son take a master class on poker, then so be it. But that's where we are right now. Like, I want them to be engaged, and I want it to be fun. And that's it. I'm not trying to push the poker thing, but I definitely thought I'd share it.
I want to add one thing because, Amy, yes, the social emotional piece is incredibly important. And I want everybody that's listening to us right now to take a moment to reframe from lack, from what they're not getting or not being exposed to or not able to do, and move towards what they're actually, every single one of us, no matter how old we are in a master class in managing uncertainty. And uncertainty brings up the feelings of frustration, disappointment, and fear. And to be successful in the academic world, a human being needs to be able to have frustration tolerance, delay of gratification, and impulse control, as well as patience, right? These are they call them these, but I always get my feelings hurt. Soft skills necessary to be, they're called soft skills, to be ready to learn, ready to create, ready to work in an office, right? So this particular pandemic, everybody, no matter how old they are, we are, continually building the muscle of being able to tolerate frustration, disappointment, and sadness and grief. Yes, that is the word. It's grief, right? And just that, learning how to tolerate it, learning how to live with it is so incredibly important. And as parents, it's tolerating for ourselves, observing it in our children. Right. So I think that, if they can manage these emotions, they're actually building a skill to do the really hard things that they have to do in middle school and high school and college.
That is so important, Lina. I am so glad you said that. It's all about positioning as parents right now. And I just saw something on Instagram where a woman was sharing something with her own mother, a memory of a camp experience when she was like a brownie or a Girl Scout. And she said to her mom, "Oh, that was like the best memory of my childhood was when we were in Girl Scout camp and the leaders woke us up at 2 a.m. and they took us to get snacks and we sang songs until the sun rose," or something like that. And the mom was like, "What? Like, is that really what you think?" She said, "That night, you don't really know why they did that." She said that there was a tornado and like they took you down to like a safe place, like, where everyone could be sheltered together. And that was like the most frightening thing for all the parents thinking, "Oh my gosh, our kids are here. They may be in danger." But all the while, the kids, because of the positioning of the troop leaders, they thought it was like so fun and so cool. So that really helped me kind of shift my thinking. And I think, Lina, you're an expert in that. So it's a natural thing, but for everybody else who's just like, gosh, we're going to miss football season. We're going to miss soccer season. Like, it's hard not to wear that on our sleeves as parents. Yeah. But you're right. It's all about like shifting it. Like, okay, we are going to be stronger for this. Yeah. We get to spend more time together and learn more about what you might have like as an extra, the side learning and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lina, on that point, I'd love to talk about what I see when I open up Facebook, when I look at Instagram, when I open my phone. We actually have a whole string going with a number of moms right now talking about whether to let, these kids go or not off to college, because it looks like they're going to spend the whole time in their dorms because it's basically all online. And I'm talking about Florida right now. So what I find interesting is the anxiety that is building up, for them, right? And so what I thought was really interesting that one of the moms said, you know what, at least it's going to be their experience. Whatever it is, it's going to be their experience. So instead of keeping them at home, let them go, because they're going to have whatever that experience is. So that you have to, of course, put in the context of safety and your concerns with the pandemic and all of that, right? So yes. I don't want to minimize it, but I thought that was an interesting point. I think what so many, in terms of especially the kids going either into middle school or into high school, because it's such a shift, for them already. What are the warning signs that we should be looking at for their anxiety? How do we, help mitigate that? I love the positioning, point of it. And then I just think in general, how are we talking about a communications plan, within your family? I think if you could address that, and Amy, more than happy to jump in as far as a teacher.
As it pertains to anxious, so I want to normalize anxiety, especially at this time. Anxiety is a normal human neurological response to what's happening, right? A part of all of our brains is managing this idea that there's a virus and we might get sick and some people are dying. So that part of it, I want to normalize. And what I don't want is for people to be anxious of being anxious, right? So normal anxiety looks like, we're, especially right now, we're not sleeping well, we're eating a little bit more, things that didn't used to bother us, we're a little more irritable. There's mood swings, right? But in adolescence and the teen years, a lot of people think that it looks like fear or that it looks like sadness when they're depressed. But actually, most of the time, it's like very, very, very strong outbursts and angry outbursts. So if all of a sudden your child is just kind of like really kind of losing it, like just explosive with emotion, or you've noticed that their eating or their sleeping patterns are different, that's something to kind of take a look at. Also, if prior to the pandemic, they were leaning on being a little more depressed, leaning on being more anxious, this is the adolescent that I really want you to pay close attention to. But it's an incredibly difficult question, because it's very, very hard to see the big warning sign, because the biggest one is they remove themselves from their social situations. But the pandemic has caused that, right, for a lot of them. So that's one way of thinking about it. Now, how to communicate as a family. There's the zeroing in and asking 100 questions of an over 12-year-old, it's not the right way. So it's more about the repetitive nature of like checking in with them, right? So finding a time, whether in pandemic times or whether, before pandemic times, everybody had the car confessional. It was the time to kind of like just kind of ask questions or do something, right? In pandemic times, a good way to kind of have a conversation is to choose a night, right? Choose a night where you're going to have dinner, where you're going to watch some popular movie and you're going to use popular culture and you're going to use a popular show, where you all can sit together and have a conversation. But I would say make it a ritual, because, some days they're just going to give you the single word answers. But that time when they really need it, they know that Friday we're going to have the pasta night with the movie, and this is when I'm going to communicate. Like I have the ritual of like always going in. I have a 15-year-old, and like always going in and asking her at night, like, okay, here I am, the psychotherapist mommy. Good things, bad things, anything. And then she just laughs it off. And sometimes she takes me up on it. But I know that in her mind, she knows that I'm going to do that. So, I do believe in like kind of ritualizing that question in that time.
Amy, I'm sure you have plenty to add on with 3 of them.
Well, I like what Lina said about it, just setting a set time, because I think that even our older kids need and appreciate and thrive with pattern and consistency. Mm-hmm. It's hard for me as like an early bird to meet my kids, my teens at this point, because they're all up late. Like, and you guys both probably know this, but like at 9:30 or 10, then they're like buzzing, and they like all of a sudden want me to like lay on their bed and talk to them, and I can like barely keep my eyes open. So that has been a shift. But zeroing in on those times and trying to really capitalize on them is helpful. The car confessionals, I mean, that is just, I miss that. I miss those hours of driving kids around. I can't believe I complained as much as I did.
I know. I thought about that the other day. That I've used because now they're cooking, because I decided to stop being the Latina mom that does everything for them, right? And start to come back a little bit, and they've got to learn to fail, right? Even in the kitchen. Lord knows I failed my first 15 years of marriage in the kitchen. That's like, it's not like I'm doing any better, but anyway. I've actually made cooking, right? Because they're actually cooking for themselves. Like tonight, my husband came home, and he was like, what are we eating? I'm like, I don't know. What are we eating? Right. And so we ended up creating something, and I turned to him and I said, I have no idea what you guys are eating. Like, I'm not going to know what you're eating on a day-to-day basis. Right. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so we have like this whole, now everybody's partaking in creating their own meals. Right. And we're using the prep time. It may not be where we're coinciding exactly on eating together all the time, but at least prepping, and they may be eating later, but they're kind of prepping at the same time. So we're using that time as kind of a family gathering moment, whether we all eat together or not. So I share that because I've had to replace the car with cook time.
I think that's a super idea, and it's working for you guys. And of course, you need to. Every kid needs to learn how to manage in the kitchen. And I actually was going to share something about how cooking is such a great learning opportunity too. If you guys could see my desk, my table with all of my resources for you, I, in the beginning of the pandemic, created this kind of like meal plan sheet. And you could see this was just a sample one that I used for my blog, but for lunch and dinner, like they were on their own for breakfast, but then the supplies needed. So I really just had the kids choose one meal, 2 meals, lunch or dinner at any point. And then they used, cookbooks. And this is such a great way of getting kids reading and practicing their math skills and experimenting. And yes, it is there's so much failing that has to happen along the way. And of course, for our younger tweens, you want to be there, right? And you should be there to keep an eye out. But there are just amazing resources right now. You don't even have to have, great cookbooks. No. But you can just Google something, right? Like you can get a magazine, or just the possibilities are endless. And I think, not only as a conversation platform. You can eat together, share the meal, give feedback and critique like they do on the food shows.
Mhm.
But it's just such a fun way of adding a little bit of learning to the weeks, especially in the summer when we all have open schedules. I mean, this is super bizarre for everyone not to have camps or swim, so I think that's a great idea. Tie it in with the ritual idea, and maybe every Tuesday is somebody's job to do dinner. Every Thursday is another kid's job. It's just something that I think more parents need to jump in on.
Mm-hmm.
So I know we're getting to our 30-minute mark. It's amazing how the time goes so quickly. I think we could, be on here for hours. But one thing that I had actually been sent a private Facebook message about was children who have special needs and the concerns going into this new, virtual school year and all that kind of stuff. Are there any particular resources or tips that you have? Our particular mom asked me about her fear going into the new school year is that her child who has ADHD is not going to have the experts at the school that they normally do. So I know I'm springing this on you. I apologize, but I think it's important to perhaps, maybe Lina, if you want to lead off on how do we quell some of those concerns, how do we address that, and what are some insights moving forward?
I think that when you have a child with a learning difference, it is important to first of all advocate for them in this setting, right? So this is not the time to not speak up and to not call the school and get yourself the resources that your child may need, and or the forgiveness of some of the material that is expected from them, especially if your child has an individualized education plan. So if your child has an IEP, know that the schools should have some plan for them. But if they don't, advocate in the sense of, okay, well, this is the difficulty. So what are we going to do with the standardized tests and the grades and all of this for them to help? So the first thing is to advocate. Number two, work together with your child on wondering, okay, what can I do? And what do I need assistance with? An expert. There is a national network called Parent to Parent that I recommend everybody kind of get to know. And I think that they're probably currently working overdrive with everything that is happening. But also, lastly, going back to this piece of holding your children's social emotional needs, is letting them know, hey, buddy, I know how much harder this is for you. Mm-hmm. I know how much harder and how much you are working to be able to stay connected to the screen or to whatever it is, because somebody with ADHD may or may not have the ability to plan and do some of this virtual learning. It may not be made up for them. For others, it's actually been the best thing that ever happened, because all of the distractions are gone that are inside of a classroom. So it depends. So it's a mixture of advocating, of sitting with your child and saying, okay, what can you and what do you feel that you can't do? And then finally, like, pointing out to them, I believe in you. I trust you. I know how hard you're working at this. And be patient and know it's something that Amy said before that I want to co-sign and reiterate. We are in unprecedented times. Like, we don't know, right? The most schools know that 2020, 2021 is just kind of like an interesting school year. And that's okay. We can make up academic stuff. We can't make up the social emotional stuff.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Sure,
oh my gosh, I would, every single thing Lina said, I would have said myself. I could have given her, like, seriously an amen at every sentence. It was perfect. I love the idea of like advocating and reaching out to the school. Like the school is our partner, and the counselors in every school right now are hoping that parents call and ask them to reach out, because so many of our students checked in with their counselors daily, you know, and so that's really important, to use that that team at the school, to use the special educators who are who've been spending probably all summer learning different ways of effectively reaching every student on their caseload. And I just think it's just so important that we recognize how hard our kids are working and how hard this is, you know. But it really can be an opportunity for some serious growth. And because there is more free time, you know, it really gives those kids who, you know, may be interested in starting their own business or learning how to code or just becoming like a history buff, anything. Like the possibilities are really endless. And I think that is really, really exciting. It's just about helping our kids find out what that is. And I think that parents sometimes forget that they are such a huge influence on their kids, that if we recommend a book or if we recommend an article to read, or if we kind of prod them with, you know, a cool series or something, that most likely our kids will respond to that, you know, and we know our kids really well. And I say that understanding that as they get older, it's harder to really feel like you know them. But I think, at least for me, and I remember when I was teaching ninth grade, sitting down with a parent at a parent conference, and the parent saying, "Can you tell me what my child is like in class?" Like, me, like this arrogant 22-year-old thinking, what kind of parent doesn't know their kid? But now I'm like, you know, texting or emailing the teacher saying like, how is this my daughter doing in class? Is she talking? Is she engaging? Is she collaborating? You know, I don't know. So I feel like, all that to say, like, if you know your kid right now is like engrossed in like crime series and on Netflix, right? Mm-hmm. Then find something like a book that will support that, right? Like, this is like such a good book, The Sun Does Shine by Anthony Ray Hinton, who was on death row. Like, maybe you could just read this and then share with your child like why you love it, why it's awesome, and why you think he or she may like it as well.
Like family book club.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, a family book club. It's such a great idea. I mean, I think, you know, it's just, there are so many great books out there. It's just hard for parents, I think, to know what to do. But they really, really have an influence on their kids. And I think if they see us reading, they're more inclined to read for pleasure as well. Mm-hmm. And I just want to say one quick thing, and I know we're going over time, but I want to emphasize to everybody listening, all the parents, that any reading counts. Okay, any reading counts. Like Guinness Book of World Records, like if your kid is like totally into facts, that counts, right? Like that's reading and that's exciting. If they're into Pokemon, like so hard to get into Pokemon as a parent, like, and you as a mother of only girls, I don't know if your girls were into it, but if they weren't, be happy, but like run with whatever they're into, right? Like Fortnite, you know, there are things that they can read on every subject. They're little entrepreneurs, then find a book about other kids who are doing awesome things. And
my girls love Airbender. Believe it or not, they're from like you know, and I could never get into it. So it is actually a joke that they find things for me to read about The Last Airbender. I'm like, whatever.
The things we do.
Yeah. Both of you have said something really important that's kind of like key for being a parent of an adolescent, right? So, you know, this idea of like, oh, we're having these conversations while they're cooking. Yeah. when we have this thing that takes away from me just like staring at you and talking to you, child, right? It helps for that banter to start, and for us also to calm down. And Amy, what you just said, oh yes, curiosity. Please be curious about what they are curious about.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, like Animal Crossing. Like the other day I was like, can you explain? My son is 12, right? Buddy, help me understand. I heard that there was a famous person from the Lord of the Rings that went on the Animal Crossing. And it was like some big thing happened on the Animal Crossing. I only saw it because I'm on Twitter because, I'm obsessed with the political piece. But, and then, we were talking, and yes, there are articles about Animal Crossing, and, I always say, oh, let's check the Google, and so, yes, the curiosity and, this third thing that we can have a conversation about something else, Pokemon, so many different values you can talk about.
I know.
Pokemon series.
For a long time, in particular when they were tweens, and I'll give this as my parenting tip, is music. Right? Like I've always introduced them to what my favorites are. So I do have U2 fans in the house, and all sorts of music from Latin America, but they have for years now introduced me to their music. Right. So I think that music is, especially now when we're home, we had a dance party the other day. It was hilarious. So we had the best, and then it was like, but this song is better, but that song is better. So I think it just breaks the ice, and it allows us to forget, about so many things. And it'll always be a connection. It's like that heartstring that music definitely helps.
So true.
So going back to our original thought, and we'll try to wrap it up with this. Anything in terms of, I know you started touching on it before, Lina, and I think that the be patient through all of these announcements and changes is really going to be the best thing. Any particular tips about the new year that's coming and that family communication plan?
I think, again, the number one thing that we, the caregivers, need to be modeling is managing uncertainty.
Okay.
So it's communication around uncertainty, communicate, and letting them know, I have to make some decisions. This is the little bit that I know. Give me some feedback, and just that back and forth with them, because none of us can promise anything at this point.
Right.
Like we have, one of the largest school districts in the country in Miami-Dade, and even our superintendent of schools is doing the best he can to address. So it is about giving as much information as you can to your children that is relevant to them understanding what's happening, but also being very, very clear that the big umbrella, from now until the end of the year is uncertainty.
Perfect. I wanted to make sure we reiterated that. Amy, anything else that we want to toss in there?
Yeah, I just think, it's important that we show each other grace, and that we, whether you are, a spiritual family or not, I think it's an important time to lean into your faith, if that's where you find strength, or if you don't, I think that you can lean into like history, like what did other strong women and men do that helped them through crazy, uncertain times? Because this is not the first uncertain time in history. And for a long, Salem witch, like there's just so many great resources out there that can help give kids strength. And I think that it's just important to show a bunch of different models and ways of encouraging them through this time. I don't know if that made sense. I feel like I'm kind of rambling.
It made perfect sense. I love that. It's such a beautiful, like there must be something written about the Spanish flu. Like,
sure. Or whatever that uncertain
beautiful
time
novel,
yeah. And
I told you we were gonna have fun with her, didn't I? Say?
No.
You said what?
She's like, you're gonna love Amy. I'm like, I do.
Well, I love Lina. Like, I'm like seriously heart eyes. Like, I feel like But I love Cristy too. So, I mean, I feel like this is a great night. I'm so thankful to be here. What a fun, fun way to spend an evening. And I hope that we help some people. And I hope that, that we can do this again. I think it's really important to get people together to share ideas and across different platforms. So I'll take an invite anytime.
So excited. All right, ladies. So we're going to close it on that note. We definitely ask everyone to send us their questions and any way that we can share more resources. We're going to be sharing Amy's content, and Lina has her ongoing Ask Lina column on the Tweens and Teens. So we'll be back soon. Thank you both so much for giving us a few minutes of your night, and we will be doing this again, as I'm sure that the stress will continue. So so it's about managing it. So thank you again. We will talk soon. Ciao.
Thank you. Thank you.